All right, friends, it's time to get back into the swing of things. We've had all these blockbuster trades. There has not been another one yet here on Monday morning. So I welcome you all to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Bespers. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hit that like button before we get going. Subscribe to the channel. We've been growing fast lately, which is super rad because once we hit the sort of, honestly, it's post All-Star break. That's when things slow down quite a bit. So we're really just trying to do as much damage as we can right now while we can. This show is brought to you by Bet Online. And with the Super Bowl coming now, like right around the corner, Super Bowl is 6 days away. It's the biggest betting weekend of the entire year. It's almost here, and that means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. Bet Online has hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, exclusive in-game live betting opportunities, making Bet Online your ultimate game day companion. On top of that, it's the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. So whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, Bet Online has everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today. Make the game day action a little bit more fun. Bet Online. The game starts here. Let's take a quick look at the sort of quick hitters from Sunday and weekend, or whatever you want to call it. Obviously, 2 blockbuster trades. We're going to talk about those on today's show. Loving what I'm seeing out of the Chicago Bulls in the post-Zach LaVine era, which we got a little bit of a taste of because he'd been gone from the team for a few games anyway. For the Lakers and the Spurs, it does feel like there are some guys that are going to take some hits. We're going to get into those a little bit. Could the Bulls still dump more pieces is something that we'll think about a bit on today's show. Is Derek Jones a guy that should be on rosters? I know that's sort of a weird one and kind of out of left field when we're talking about these massive game-breaking blockbuster trades. But Derek Jones has actually been very good lately. He has these weird little holes in his fantasy game that have kind of covered up the fact that overall he's been kind of a net positive guy. So he'll get some time on today's show. And then I want to talk a little bit about John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies and whether he will ever actually get fully healthy this year. How do we do that? We go backwards through the weekend. It's a reverse chronological lightning round Monday show. We're going to go as fast as we can, covering each of the 30 teams in the NBA and just kind of getting everybody reset for this week coming up. This is the way that we kind of set the stage here. And also, you know, I'll do my best on today's show, even more than usual, to separate the roto and the head-to-head results right now. Because on the head-to-head side, trade deadline week, you're really just waiting for something big to go down. And then you're going to act upon it. With roto, you can kind of do whatever you want, and there aren't many repercussions other than accidentally putting a dude on waivers that you then want to get back a few days later and can't. In any event, Chicago lost at Detroit. Bulls fans are pleased. They want them to lose, and they should. But here's the fun part here. Now, forget the fact that Lonzo Ball is likely to sit out the back-to-back. The Bulls were rolling into they have a back-to-back Tuesday, Wednesday this week, so we don't know which of those 2 games he's going to play. The big picture things here are, number one, with Zach LaVine gone for good and the Bulls acquiring 3 role players that likely, I mean, altogether, I'm sure they'll do something, but they're not going to do anything close to what Zach LaVine was doing. What you see here is what you get with Chicago. I wouldn't worry about what the new guys are going to do to the guys that are actually doing stuff in this ball game we're talking about. So Vooch continues his insane season. I have no idea how he's continued to shoot 55% all year long. It's just a great offensive year. He's never slowed down. As clear as a day as it seemed that he was a sell high, and we called him one a bunch of times on this show, he's still shooting so far out in front of anything he's done in his career, and it's lasting all damn year. Josh Giddey is a big winner with Zach LaVine being traded. Kobe White is a winner with Zach LaVine being traded, but those guys were already on rosters. Let's talk about the guys that were a little bit more fringy. We've had Lonzo Ball as a pickup for a couple of weeks. He's been putting up 30 plus points a game. He's been playable numbers in 24 minutes. Over the weekend, we heard a report out of Bulls camp that his minutes cap got lifted to 28. It didn't happen in the first game after that report came out, but it happened in this one. And 28 minutes for Lonzo Ball is absolutely enough to put him on every roster. So check your waiver wire right now. For a while, I was calling him a roto-only ad because of those missed games, and I think there's still some merit to that. I have a ton of Lonzos on my fantasy team. I think I have him on like 40% of the leagues that I'm in. Now, admittedly, most of those leagues are roto, and certainly he's an easier sell because of the missed back-to-back games. He's also a candidate to get traded, which would probably shave his role down a little bit. But as long as he's playing 28 minutes a night in Chicago, he belongs on basically every roster, definitely every roto roster, and most head-to-head rosters. Those missed games are the things that creep up and get you. An easier call for all formats is Ayo Dosunmu, who also, like Lonzo Ball, has a very fantasy-friendly game. Here he had 14 points, 3 boards, 5 assists, a block, and a couple of three-pointers. The great thing about Ayo is he's a high-efficiency guy. Those guys have a very easy path to consistent fantasy value because they don't have to do as much in the other things. Dosunmu hasn't shot the free throw all that well this year. I can't really explain that. I'm hoping that it's more fluky than anything else, because if you look at his numbers from last year, he was at 50% from the field and 81 at the foul line. He's down into the high 70s at the free throw line this year and 48 from the field. Both of those are career lows. And, some of it was him shooting maybe a bit over his head at the three-point line. Last year, that's come down a tad. The steals and blocks have also ticked down a little bit. But I think a lot of that's going to get made up in the fact that now with Zach LaVine gone more permanently and the possibility that other guys might also get moved, that you're going to see more like 11 shots a game instead of 9.8. Maybe we can even get him a little bit higher than that. He just has a translatable fantasy game, and I would have Ayo on all rosters. So again, talking head-to-head versus roto, I think you can pick up Ayo Dosunmu on a head-to-head roster because I think he's going to be a playable dude the rest of the year. Use your moves right now in head-to-head on trades that actually happen. This is one that happened, and we've been talking about Dosunmu for a few weeks, so he's probably not on waiver wires. You guys probably got him because of how much we've been talking about it, but this really, the Zach LaVine trade truly solidifies that. Buzelis played 26 minutes again. He's had a couple of okay games in a row. I still think he needs a couple more things to happen. Like, I think the minutes need to get up near 30. I think he needs to have more usage. He's just not a feature piece yet. And he might become one, but I'm not using a move on him yet. I have nothing really to add out of Detroit. The starters played big minutes in this ballgame, and I know I'm counting Malik Beasley more as a starter than a reserve, even though he's technically the backup to Tim Hardaway Jr. Beasley's been very up and down. He's really more of a three-point stream with the way he's settled in as the year's gone on, and that's the way we'll operate. Also, good to see Tobias Harris bouncing back after a rough few games. He's clawed his way back inside the top 100 per game, and definitely higher than that by totals because he hasn't really missed any time. Can't be taking deep breaths like that or I'm going to cough a bunch. Mic off, mic on. Sorry, guys. At some point, this cough will go away. This is a throwaway game for Dallas and Cleveland. Move on. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the Mavericks. We will know more when Anthony Davis plays. I will say this, and forgetting this box score for a minute because it has nothing to do with this one because everybody's sad. AD's likely to start the 4 the Mavs put out, meaning Daniel Gafford will likely remain the starting center and should still put up pretty good numbers, not quite as good as what he's been doing lately. What we don't know is, besides Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and Daniel Gafford, who are the other 2 guys going to be? My money is on Klay Thompson and PJ Washington. I think they're going to try running big and see how it goes. If it doesn't work, you might see someone like a Quentin Grimes or a Dante Exum or a Najee Marshall slide into the starting lineup. I don't think it'll be Spencer Dinwiddie, but I guess it could be Dinwiddie or Jaden Hardy. There's a lot of names there. I just, like, from all indications, the Mavs are higher on PJ Washington than those other guys. So my thought is that he gets first crack at that small forward spot, which he's very big for, but it, I mean, and the floor spacing is not going to be great for this team, but it might stick for a little bit. So I would hang on to PJ. Probably takes a hit. I mean, certainly against what he's been doing with no Luka in the lineup when AD comes back. By the way, AD not healthy yet, so you won't have to worry about it immediately. But I think your starting lineup to start here is going to be Gafford, AD, PJ, Clay, and Kyrie. And if they stink, and if that doesn't work at all, then you'll probably see adjustments pretty quick, would be my guess. So Clay's the guy I don't want out of those dudes. But we haven't really wanted him at all throughout the year, so nothing really changes there. PJ's a guy we've been very high on. This might knock him off his pedestal, and we'll deal with that when we get there. Cleveland, I don't care. Clippers, we told you we were going to talk a little bit about Derek Jones, who, again, only 8 points here, but 3 boards, a steal, 2 blocks, and this is basically like the worst recent game for Jones. And, over the last 2 weeks, he is inside the top 80, shooting 55% from the field. He's at 13-6 with a 3-ball, 1.3 steals, and 0.9 blocks. And he's barely rostered in fantasy leagues. He's only 16% rostered. So there's a lot of Derek Jones available if you'd want right now. I don't know how repeatable all of these stats are over the last 2 weeks. I do think the field goal percent, maybe not 55%, but he's at 52 for the year. And, he's had seasons where he shot 52 or 53%. So that to me is not that crazy. The free throws are at 78% for this year. Over the last 2 weeks, it's 71. So, yes, that's very repeatable. He's always been a good steals guy, 1.2 of them in 25 minutes this year. If you look at almost any season where he's gotten 22, 23 minutes, he's been around a steal. But then there are some years in there where the sample size is too small or the role is very different. The blocks are the one where I'm not totally convinced because he's had good block seasons, but it doesn't always stick. And even, frankly, this year he's only at 0.4 in 25 minutes a game, but he's around 1 lately in more like 30 minutes a game. Which one is it? I don't know. I'm willing to take a shot that he can block more shots because now the Clippers have Kawhi. They don't need additional scoring. They need the Derek Jones defense, rim running, all that kind of stuff that he can provide along the wing. And he's getting the shot now. And I know Norman Powell was out for this last ball game, but Derek Jones's minutes have been pretty static for, it's funny. It was the game where they rested everybody, where everybody was out, and he played 44 minutes against Boston, and he's just sort of been cooking since then. And again, I don't know that this is a thing that's going to stick all year. He's had opportunities to solidify the minutes before, but it just kind of feels like this is the guy they want out there right now. So I'm in favor, and again, I get it. Roto, you probably can go do it easier than head-to-head because of trade deadline week. I don't know that you want to use a move on Derek Jones with other stuff floating around. Roto leagues, I'm picking him up. Head-to-head, I'm going to leave it up to you. You know your team situation a little better than I do. For the Raptors, Ochai Agbaji, Grady Dick each had very good shooting games, so more flash in the pan. Emmanuel Quickley played 17 minutes in his return. He went to the locker room and everybody panicked. And then after the ball game, the Raptors said basically, look, his minutes cap was 18 anyway. So he was done. So I believe that he's fine. Report seems to be from the Raptors that he's fine. So keep Emmanuel Quickley ready to go. I don't know that you just start him until his minutes get up into the mid-20s. But now we're at a point with this Raptors team where all the fringe guys are dead. So you go Jakob Poeltl, you go Scotty Barnes. For your particular build, you might go RJ Barrett. I do not. And then once Emmanuel Quickley gets ramped up, then he'll be on that list as well. Nothing for Boston. Philly, Gershon Yabusele, Kelly Oubre continue to put up, and Oubre had efficiency issues in this game, but they continue to put up juicy numbers with Embiid and Paul George both out. Justin Edwards played 44 minutes in this game, and that's a lot of minutes in one ball game. I will say this, though, on the Justin Edwards front, and Adam King was wise enough to talk about him on our show last week. I don't think his game is super translatable to fantasy unless he's getting these kind of wacko, ludicrous level minutes. Otherwise, you're hoping for a couple of steals and like 4 rebounds and 2 assists, and that's fine in a schedule spot, but definitely not worthwhile on against a game's cap. And luckily, Philly has one of the really good schedules leading into the All-Star break. Starting last week, they go 4-4-2. And the 2 has an opening on that Thursday next week. So if you wanted to pivot off of them, then that would be the time to do it. But again, I think Philly brings guys back before they send guys out at this point. So to me, Yabusele and Oubre are your streams, and you'll bring other guys back into the mix when you need to. No John Morant for Memphis once again dealing with a shoulder injury. I picked up Luke Kennard everywhere last week, and I'm just going to keep starting him as long as Ja is out. Scottie Pippen Jr. had a better ball game here, although he was absolutely terrible at the free throw line. That almost unforgivably bad. I prefer Kennard. When Ja is out, Luke is the starting point guard, which seems crazy. I know on the screen here he's listed as shooting guard, but you can see by the way the stats accrue, his job is basically to initiate and space the floor. Santi Aldama belongs on rosters. Desmond Bane is dealing with some ankle stuff. We'll see if he plays in their next ball game. If he's out, that's just even more for Luke Kennard. Probably then, if Bane is out, Jalen Wells would be sort of a one-day play. Zach Edey had 14 and 11 in this one, but the 18 minutes is the number that I'm looking at there. I think Edey's more of a schedule play when the front court is healthy. And if you did, then you got a good schedule play game out of him here. So Aldama's a yes. Bane is a yes. Edey's a schedule. Pippen is a no for me, despite the good ball game. Kennard is an injury play for Ja. Obviously, JJJ is a yes. Jalen Wells, I need Ja and Bane out if I'm going to play Jalen Wells, who, again, I can't get over the fact that some of you guys know that I called Division II college basketball games for fun here in late fall and winter. And Jalen Wells played D2 college basketball his freshman and sophomore years. And I watched that kid, and it just didn't click at all that it was the same dude. I had to be told by the current SID where I call some games, which is Cal Poly Pomona, shout out to the Broncos, that it's the same Jalen Wells. Like, what? Wait, what? Wait. Yep. Crazy. The Milwaukee Bucks, Damian Lillard had a rare down game. He's been pretty good lately, so I think we can forgive him his indiscretions here. You're not picking up Taurean Prince. You're not picking up AJ Green. Chris Middleton is the big shrug emoji for the Bucks right now. He's been running hot in Chris's defense, so it's hard to make a good assessment of what the hell he is right now when he's hitting 70% of his buckets. But he doesn't seem very good. And I know he's top 75 over the last week, but he's shooting 73.5% over that stretch. The usage is low. The minutes are low. The results are feh. Unless something drastic is about to change on the Chris Middleton minutes per game front, he doesn't really belong on rosters right now. Which I realize is an absolutely harebrained take on a guy who just put up a good line, but that's where we're at. Before we go to Saturday and basically knock out the other 10, 20 teams that we haven't talked about yet, I want to tell you guys about our partnership with UnderdogFantasy.com, and I'll throw the Underdog page up on the screen so you guys can see what we're working with here. UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up today using promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just click the link in the show description, and you can unlock up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's at a 50% deposit match clip on that first deposit. A free play, which unfortunately I can't show you here on your screen because I did it already. And right now you've got other promos going. This is the big game. I'm trying to put it up on the screen and I can't do it. You either win it or you get your credits back, which you then have to play again. But whatever. It's basically like a a protected pick, and it's going to be in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to get that into my thing at some point here. I'm going to take it out on this one so that we can do an NBA card together. The nice thing about UnderdogFantasy.com, and I'll collapse them all and you guys can watch me do it, is you don't have to understand DFS to play. Sometimes you see these daily games, and the first thought is, oh, it's so much. I can't figure out how to mush all the different prices together and make my lineup fit, and I got to have the cheap guys and the expensive guys, and it's a puzzle. DFS is a puzzle that I personally don't have the patience to try to figure out on a daily basis. Shout out to all of you guys that can. There's nothing wrong with it. I just can't do it. With Underdog, you just make a pick'em list, a pick'em card. So like Washington Charlotte is going to be an absolute dumpster fire. So we're not going to go into that one. Let's go into, say, Sacramento, Minnesota. That's an interesting one. The Kings just traded away their franchise player. So this is going to be an interesting one. There's probably going to be a little bit of an emotional bump for Sacramento. Who do we think is going to get that big bump? I would lean towards Malik Monk. So I think he scores a lot. I don't know. I think I'd probably go higher on points, rebounds, and assists for Malik Monk. I think he's going to have a really nice game here with De'Aaron Fox gone, and they're all going to be playing very emotional. If I didn't go that route, I might have gone a higher for Mike Conley or Naz Reid if they were in on the Milwaukee or on the Minnesota side, because I think it's going to be a relatively high scoring game. Now I got to go to a different game because you can do one pick per game. Although, could I go on the opposite team, or is it going to not let me do that? Oh, you can. All right, so it's just per team, actually. So what I'll probably end up doing, I'm not going to lock it in because I got to make sure that Naz Reid is actually playing in this game. He's dealing with a sprained finger. I'm going to probably go either Naz or Conley, and I'm probably going to lean towards an over because Julius Randle is out, or a higher, I should say, not an over, a higher, because Julius Randle's out, Dante DiVincenzo is still out. And that's creating this opportunity for these guys in what should be a very high-scoring game and a lot of fun. Other things you could look at if you wanted to, add more things to your card. Houston is in New York. Teams always go crazy when they're at Madison Square Garden. What other games are even on the docket here? San Antonio, De'Aaron Fox, I don't think is going to be there yet. But they didn't send out many dudes, so that one's a tougher one. I don't know look where you've got angles. The Pelicans. Do the Pelicans have angles? DeJounte Murray's out for the year, so, pull up the Pels and see if you got any fringe guys you might want to dump into there. What about Jose Alvarado? You want to do a Jose Alvarado deal? If Zion's playing, you want to take a Misi under. Yves been awful. Yves Misi has been awful when Zion's played. Anyway, it's fun. You can put basically any amount of money on each pick'em card that you put together. You can do a bunch of stuff. I like just doing 2 at a time because you hit it, you triple it. You basically, if you get on a little heater that way, you can make money pretty fast. You also won't lose it very quickly. And the odds are good. As soon as you get down to your 3rd, 4th, 5th favorite projection, you're screwing up your odds. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. We're going to get back to the boxes now at this point because we got a lot to cover still. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code OLDMAN, or just click that link. That's the easiest way to do it. Come play with me. Back we are. I'm realizing this is turning out to be a long podcast, but you know what? Deal with it. We had 2 blockbuster trades over the weekend. There's a lot to cover. Orlando is... they've got issues. Still no Jalen Suggs, but that doesn't really change things for me all that much. Cole Anthony had a good game off the bench, but you can't trust him right now with Wagner and Paolo both healthy. Goga Bitadze started but played only 16 minutes. Wendell Carter Jr. was bad off the bench. A lot of things are going poorly for the Magic right now. Hold on Goga. The nice thing is he actually did enough fantasy-wise in only 16 minutes to earn himself a little more time. Franz, Goga, and again, it's a team build thing. I would have never drafted Paolo in 1,000 years. But if you got Paolo, he's the 3rd guy you're playing. And Suggs, when he comes back, move along. The Jazz actually let the big kids play again in this ball game. So John Collins was good. If he plays, you start him. Larry Markkinen was meh. But if he plays, you start him. Colin Sexton got going when everybody else sat down. And now he's sort of rolling. Great. You can start him. Walker Kessler, you can start. Isaiah Collier, again, a little bit of a team build kind of guy in that he's likely to be particularly bad in turnovers. So Collier, punt turnover or 8-cat guy. Keontae George is turning out to be a real mess of a dude this year. Luckily, I only have him in a volume league, so I have no real problem with him there. But if you were counting on him in most formats, the fact that Utah's bringing back all these guys and letting Isaiah Collier take that starting point guard job, that's rough. What you need for Keontae is a Colin Sexton trade, which could very well happen. His contract is not that bad. I know there's a few years left on it, but it's not that bad of a contract, so it's probably movable. Jordan Clarkson, also a relatively movable contract. John Collins is a relatively movable contract. So a lot could change for Utah between now and Thursday. Don't freak out. Probably roster all of those guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, maybe not Clarkson. I don't much care for Clarkson. So Collins, Markkanen, Sexton, Kessler, Collier, George. You can probably roster all those dudes and just see what happens on Thursday. Atlanta, trying to figure out what to do with no Jalen Johnson. We're seeing an uptick for Zachary Reese-Shea, but his efficiency is going to be very bad. So I would probably say points leagues only, because I think the field goal, the free throw are both going to be bad. Turnovers might not be that bad because no one really has to handle the ball besides Trae Young, so at least that won't be terrible. But yeah, Reese-Shea, if you're adding him, just know what you're getting into. That's more of a points league guy. Okongwu's a start. Obviously, Dyson Daniels. Obviously, Trae Young. DeAndre Hunter has been very up and down lately. When he's down, it's down bad. I think I'm probably hanging on to Hunter again, just kind of waiting to see what's going on with the Hawks. But apparently, Bogdan Bogdanovic is on the block. Clint Capella's on the block. There's a lot of stuff that can happen here. You're not making moves early this week until we see what shakes out. And that's basically where I'm at with Atlanta. Andrew Nembhard had a solid ball game. Again, he's a high field goal percent point guard who gets assists and some steals. That's a nice combination. He does not hit three-pointers, so it's going to cap him out a little bit. At the same time, there are a lot of uses for Nembhard. When he's running hot, things are good. You know, when he's shooting 50% or better, life is good. And he's been great lately, although he's been hurt a bit. Some of that's because the steals have been inordinately high, which, again, that's not going to keep up long term. You know, the games that he's played in lately, his steals have gone 2-2, 1-2, 3-3, 0, 3-3, 2. That's going to come down. He's a really nice field goal percent, points, assists, some steals guy. And I think he does belong on most rosters. He definitely belongs on punt threes rosters. That makes the decision very easy on Nembhard. For non-punt threes builds, he's sort of more on the fence, but I lean towards yes right now. I have no other thoughts on the Pacers. Halliburton, yeah. Obviously, Miles Turner's a yeah. Siakam's a yeah. There's a pretty easy team to break down outside of Nembhard. Denver decided to mess around a little bit and then finally took care of Charlotte late. What do we got here on Denver? Russ is dealing with some soreness. I don't know how they'll classify that however they want. In the meantime, you guys know me. I'm not an Aaron Gordon guy. If you're punting free throws, he makes a bit more sense. So Jokic, Brown, Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and then try to hold on to Russ. For Charlotte, it was nice to see Mark Williams back in the lineup. He had a couple games off, and I think we all started to go, ooh, you guys are going easy on him, right? And luckily, the answer was yes. Mark Williams was great. Outstanding. Nick Smith finally did some stuff. It took a lot of guys being out to get him there, meaning basically Vasilija Micic also had to go down in this game. And then Nick Smith did some stuff. But it was actually KJ Simpson that stepped up to be the third string point guard. And that's the guy, believe it or not, that I'd be looking at. You might see a start out of him in the Hornets' next ball game. Stay tuned. I don't think I have the information for you right now, first thing here on Monday morning, of what to do. Miles Bridges, obviously, is a go. Mark Williams is a go. You're hanging on to LaMelo in the hopes that he's back not too long from now. It's always something with that dude. I'm not adding Nick Smith yet. I never added Vasilija Micic because I don't like his fantasy game. And then, keep an eye on what happens with Simpson. All right, we're trying to move at a better clip now. How many teams we got left? Jeez, 30 minutes already. Sorry, guys. Sacramento, I don't think much is going to change for this team. Malik Monk is going to be the full-time point guard. That's good for him. You're replacing one high-usage guy with another, so everybody else pretty much does the same stuff they were already doing. And, okay, great. Oklahoma City, this was a blowout. Aaron Wiggins had 41. I'm sure he got added everywhere on Sunday, and then he'll get dropped for the next one. So, Pep, move along. No Jalen Williams in this game, the one that everybody has rostered. Jalen Williams had a better one, but this game was over so early that if you're making reads on OKC from this one, yeah, you don't. It is worth noting that Cason Wallace hurt his shoulder, so there are some minutes up for grabs, but I'm willing to wager that those are going to rotate between Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Kenrich Williams, Jalen Williams. There's like, anyway, don't do anything rash. Washington beat Minnesota. What you doing, Wolves? Kuzma finally had a good ball game, trying to get himself traded, most likely. I still want nothing to do with Kuz. He's been so horrible all year. Could it be the start of a little run for him? Yeah, absolutely. It also might not, because he did this 2 weeks ago and then followed that up with a 7.6 rebound, 3 out of 11 shooting clunker. He's way over rostered because he's Kyle Kuzma, but he's been terrible. Bilal Coulibaly, to me, is a guy you're still holding through the deadline. This is just a glimpse of what he could be if it's not the worst efficiency night. And this is with Kuzma taking 24 shots and Jordan Poole taking 13. I don't need both of those guys gone. I don't think they will both be gone. Just get rid of one of them, and then Bilal can really get cooking. No Alex Sarr. So this is the Jonas Valanciunas 1 week runway that we've been sort of wondering if it would ever surface. JV is also on the block. Again, I've said it before. I don't know that there's anywhere Valanciunas gets traded where he plays more than about 22 minutes a game. So I'm really not that into him as a trade deadline stash. Malcolm Brogdon is back, but they're not really giving him much yet. Keep one eye on Brogdon in case it ramps up. Keep an eye on Brogdon in case he gets moved. I don't think he's going to go anywhere where he plays enough anyway. But this Wizards team is another one that we figure looks pretty different on Thursday. Frustrating game for Minnesota, not just because of the loss, but because Naz Reid finally was about to have the day that he could get out there and just go wild, and he sprained a finger. Let's hope he's okay. Mike Conley is a play right now. He was borderline with just DiVincenzo out. He's definitely a play with both Dante and Randall out because there's just sort of so much to do for him that he's going to have to do it. Anthony Edwards missed this one with the flu. He may or may not be back for the next ball game. I would not pick up Nickeil Alexander-Walker because I don't want to use a move on a guy that we know is a very short-term thing. Conley is a guy that could be multiple weeks, so that's why I would think about maybe doing something with him. Well, in case you thought the Wizards beating Minnesota was silly, Brooklyn beat Houston, and I don't really know how. D'Angelo Russell, they're still kind of keeping his minutes in check, but obviously he's a start. When Brooklyn has good ball games like this, a lot of funny things can happen. Zaire Williams remains kind of like the closest fringe guy to someone I would think about starting. Fun to see Day'Ron Sharpe back quickly. He's a trade deadline stash candidate if we think Nick Claxton gets moved, which I'm more and more thinking maybe. So, and Sharpe is basically the backup there, although you might see some trend in Watford. I'd rather see more Day'Ron Sharpe, but he had 5 fouls in 17 minutes. That would also be an issue if they needed him to play more. Because he's a dude that's just on skates, trying to rebound over everyone and just knock people around like a bowling ball. Enough with the riff. Enough of the yappity yap, Dan. What do we do? D'Lo, start. Claxton, start. Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas, hold to figure out where they're going to end up. / will Cam Thomas ever play again? He's basically been out for 2 months now. Absolutely crushing. I'm in a league. It's that volume league again. I have Cam Thomas in that volume league, and it only has one IL slot. Somehow my team's still in good shape. That dude just clogging up the one IL for a third of the damn season. What about the fringe guys? I think you can probably start Zaire Williams, but I don't think that I would use a move on him right now because I have no idea what Brooklyn's going to look like in a couple of days also. The thing with Zaire is that he's pretty good at rebounding and the steals and the threes, and like there is a certain well-roundedness to his fantasy game, but also he's shooting 40.5% this year. 81 at the free throw line is better, but there's going to have to be a lot of usage to overwhelm the bad field goal percent. And again, what if they don't trade Cam Johnson? It sure seems like they're gonna, but what if they don't? So again, if you're thinking about stashes with Brooklyn, Day'Ron Sharpe would probably be my favorite. And then Zaire Williams is more the sort of active stash right now. So he'd be a much easier one to actually do. Rockets were already without Alperen Şengün. They lost Freddie VanVleet to an ankle issue midway through this ball game. Honest to goodness, I don't actually know what the Rockets are going to do with minutes in their next one. If Şengün is back, that solves one issue. If he's not, you've got the Steven Adams, can we pray he doesn't get to the foul line type of stream if you really want to. Presumably Tari Eason. Rockets, by the way, have a 5-game week. So you're also going to get some rest days, most likely for Eason in there. So is this the time to try Cam Whitmore? Probably, actually. I'd be surprised if Whitmore didn't have a pretty good 5-game stretch this week. And that doesn't mean all 5 are going to be good, but I think there are going to be enough, maybe 2 or 3 good ones in there where the aggregate ends up being useful. By the way, one of the only roster moves I'm okay with you guys making that's not trade deadline related is if you want to roll Cam Whitmore in a 5-game week. Otherwise, save your moves for trades that have already happened or are about to happen. Lakers beat the Knicks on the road, and it was like, wow, how about that? This Lakers team, they found a way to get it done. They beat a good team without Anthony Davis, and then they were like, I guess we don't need Anthony Davis. Lakers are 28-19, and the team chemistry is about to really hit the skids because maybe their best plus-minus guy over the last month and a half, Max Christie, also got traded. So I don't know what the hell the Lakers are going to do until Luka Doncic shows up. LeBron is obviously going to be a big part of it. Austin Reeves is going to be a huge part here in the near term. Lakers are probably going to get trounced. Let's be honest. Without Christie, defensively, they're going to have some big issues. They really need Gabe Vincent to be healthy and to be able to play closer to 30 minutes, I would think, in the short term. Do they go out there and try to get another guard? Are we going to see them run big? Is it going to be more Jared Vanderbilt as he gets ramped up? It's going to be a lot of Dorian Finney-Smith, who, might be top 100 until Luka comes around, but it's really going to come down to efficiency for him, so I don't think I would do anything there. Rui is probably the safest bet to post value until Luka comes back as the third guy. I don't want Jackson Hayes. You can see he's going to get played off the floor in a lot of matchups this year. The Lakers are going to have to trade for a big man. And I said this before on some other shows, and I might have even said it earlier in this one. The thing you're doing with the Lakers right now, short term, you could go Rui. So that's more roto where you don't have a limit on the number of moves you're making. But longer term, you're basically just trying to guess at what center the Lakers trade for. I think everybody in the universe knows they're going to go get a center, and so teams are going to try to fleece them to get that first-round pick the Lakers can still trade. They're going to try to do it without that. We'll find out soon if they can. OG Anunoby left partway through this game, which means we finally have a possible streaming opportunity for New York. But I don't know which one it is. Precious Achiuwa had the bigger ball game against the Lakers, but it could also be Deuce McBride in the next one. Miles played 23 minutes in this one. Is it going to be matchup dependent? Probably, because OG's a wing. If it was a guard that went down, we'd know that it was going to be McBride. If it was a big man that went down, we'd know it was going to be Precious, but it was an in-between. It was OG. So if you're looking for a fill-in, I'd rather go McBride, but I don't know that it's going to be him. It might be Precious. So I think we kind of have to wait and see. I'm thinking Anunoby probably misses more than one ball game, so we can probably play this one by ear a little bit. The Knicks have a back-to-back. They play the Rockets tonight. They're in Toronto tomorrow. And so maybe you just, whatever you see tonight, you roll with it tomorrow. This, again, more for the Roto side because you don't want to use a roster move on something that's not a rest of season thing. Miami beat San Antonio. There was no Wemby in this game, so that certainly made life a little bit easier. Bam. Dude has been due for a hot run, and hopefully this is the start of something for Adebayo. He's been on our buy low board for a couple of weeks in a row. Nikola Jovic is a play. Khalil Ware is a play. Terry Rozier, now being announced as being under investigation, suddenly playing better, and I really don't know what to do with that information other than to say, is it like he so badly needed the basketball distraction right now? But he's actually looked pretty damn good for his last 4 games in a row. Shooting the ball better is probably part of it, but just overall, he seems better. I'm not acting on it. I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing. And plus, you're going to get a Butler trade coming down the pike here that's going to blow up a lot of stuff. So I will pass. And then obviously Tyler Hero belongs on rosters because his job has been massive this year. Although I will say he is slipping just a little bit, kind of quietly. The efficiency is coming down a hair. Over on the Spurs side, Chris Paul's in trouble. He's not going to get 32 minutes once De'Aaron Fox shows up. I'm super worried that he's going to end up as a drop, but we'll wait it out a little bit first. If I'm thinking about who to roster on San Antonio going forward, Wemby and Fox are obviously the very easy ones. I would also roster Devin Vassell, and I'm going to hold on Chris Paul in the short term. I don't think you need to add Stephon Castle, even though it sounds like he's going to be a part of their starting 5, because I think his job is mostly just going to be to shoot. Like this game, he had a bunch of stuff, but that's because guys were out. 2 superstars coming back for this team. There's just not going to be that much besides, 12, 13, 14 shots or whatever. And so, yeah, he might score some points, but for 9-cat, that's probably not going to be enough. I think Jeremy Sohan is droppable, not just because his minutes are low right now, but because he's going to kind of get squeezed out. And no, you're not adding Harrison Barnes. If Wemby has to miss another ball game, Charles Bassey is obviously your guy because they traded away Zach Collins. He didn't play that much in this one anyway, but keep an eye on Bassey as your injury replacement guy. We're almost done, everybody. Phoenix, they still kind of stink. Suns are fine. I mean, they're 25 and 23. They had a slightly easier schedule stretch lately, and they'll make the play-in at the very least. Devin Booker has been playing well lately. Where's his rank now? Did he move back up? Yeah, he's back up to number 20, so that's good. Kevin Durant is number 12. That one's panned out nicely. Bradley Beal is saying he doesn't want him get traded, and he has a no-trade clause, so this situation might get uglier before it gets better. I'm still starting Beal in most games. This one obviously got out of hand, so the minutes were not where you'd normally expect them. He's been bad, but not so bad that you can't start him. Tyus Jones is very close to a drop, and if he doesn't have a role change post-deadline, he will be a drop. Grayson Allen is someone I've been considering, but he was bad here, and it does seem like he needs to be almost perfect. And then Nick Richards, like, we warned you guys, he's not that good. He's better than what they had, but he's not that good. Richards is a hold through the deadline. The Blazers are surprisingly fun right now. But again, this is another team that might see some bodies move. Jeremy Grant came back. I've never seen a power forward do a better impression of a shooting guard in my life. Try to trade Jeremy Grant is what I'm saying to you. Scoot is a hold. Kamara had a great game, and he's one of my favorite trade deadline stash guys because he's actually doing stuff right now. And obviously after this ball game, it's like, what are you talking about, Dan? He's going to be on a bunch of rosters. He's been super up and down. But if you add some more usage to his platter, that's a way to sort of keep him up. Shaedon Sharp, punt field goal guy. Denny Avdia is a hold, another great trade deadline stash dude. Simons is a hold or sell high. DeAndre Ayton is a hold or a sell high. And Donovan Clingan is going to get dropped in a bunch of spots because people are like, this guy's doing nothing. And you guys told me to hold him through the deadline. Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes guys do nothing and you're sort of inactive stashing them through the deadline. We know at some point this year, Donovan Clingan is going to get a bunch of run. Because Blazers, for as nice as they've looked lately, and they're 7-3 in their last 10, they're still 4.5 games out of a playoff spot and would have to climb over the San Antonio Spurs to get there. And the Warriors. Sorry, two teams out. But the fact that the Blazers have been kind of good, it does probably delay how long before they pull the plug on their usuals. I believe every team in the NBA besides Golden State. Nope, there were two teams. New Orleans and Golden State didn't play over the weekend. All right, we got to go back to Friday. Two more teams, guys. We're almost done. Hang in there. Where is New Orleans? New Orleans lost. There we go. New Orleans lost DeJounte Murray for the year in this game on Friday. Jose Alvarado played 34 minutes. He's an ad, with the caveat that it might end up being Jordan Hawkins when he comes back from his flu bug. So as I picked up Jose Alvarado almost everywhere in case it stays Jose that gets the DeJounte Murray minutes. But just know it might be Jordan Hawkins, whose fantasy game does not translate as well as Alvarado's does, because Jose gets you assists and steals and threes, even if the percentages aren't great. Hawkins gets you points and not a whole lot else on percentages that also won't be all that great. So let's hope it's Alvarado, but just know that's not a guarantee. Zion was out, so Missy had a chance to have a better ball game, but he missed some free throws and didn't get any defensive stats, and so kind of an oh well sort of game. Eve is another guy that you're sort of hanging on until we see if the Pelicans call it quits on the year. They should, because Murray's out for the year. Herb Jones is probably out for the year. Ingram is likely just out until maybe a trade. Zion can't stay on the floor, although this time at least it was just an illness. They've got Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum, and we know McCollum's on the block. There's a lot up in the air with this Pelicans team. So again, Roto, I would pick up Jose Alvarado and just see. Head-to-head, hopefully you were able to pick him up last week. I would pretty much just hold anybody until we get confirmation on something. And then the Warriors are just, they're bad, man. The Warriors are bad. There's some notes from the good folks over at Basketball Monster. Wiggins is a hold. Steph is a hold. I think that's kind of it for me. And Draymond, who will be back at some point soon. I think he's expected back in their next ball game. To me, that's as far as you go, because the Warriors are just pushing every button right now and seeing what sticks nightly. They're another team that's probably going to try to thin the herd. They keep putting out, the Warriors keep leaking like, oh yeah, like this is another guy that other teams are interested in. If I'm an opposing GM of the Warriors' young guys, and they have a bunch, the only one I'm interested in is Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not that interested in Moses Moody. I'm not that interested in Brandon Pajemski. Like, Brandon's fine, but they were hyping him up as like this next big star-level guy. He's a role player, and he'll probably be a pretty good one. But these are not big needle-moving guys. Kuminga could actually be pretty good if he sort of got turned loose. There's an athleticism and a skill level there that these other guys don't really have. But we'll see. Trade deadline is coming, and they're likely to shuffle the deck a little bit. Okay, that was a long one, guys. I'm very sorry. There was a lot to cover, though. Let's get the hell out of here. Thanks to Underdog and Bet Online. If you made it this far, you obviously need to subscribe to the channel now. At Dan Vespers, find me on Twitter. Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Like our trade deadline live show. That's coming up in just a couple of days now. It's at 784 pre-likes. I want to see if we can get to 800. I'm pretty sure we can because we got 3 days to get there. Make sure you like that show in advance so that'll kind of bookmark it for you. And then we'll all get rolling first thing on Thursday morning. I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. I need to go rest my voice. I'll see you guys later on today.